Watching the military takeover of USA cities from a distance is disturbing. Welcome back. This is Charmel and Grecia sharing information about living in Costa Rica. The military takeovers that I am watching from afar were projected in Project 2025, which anybody who had an interest could read about uh, in 2024 because it was published. It's all happening now. I still care about what happens in the United States. I am still a citizen. I own a home in the United States. I pay taxes in the United States. And I vote in the United States. When I was a little girl, I went to National Hills Elementary School in Augusta, Georgia, which is near the Masters golf tournament. So a lot of things around me were named National Hills, like the National Hills Shopping Center and the Arnold Palmer Dry Cleaners and the Arnold Palmer Car Wash. um, that's about all I remember about living in Augusta, Georgia when I was in elementary school. I lived there for 3 years, except for two other things that I remember. One is that in 1970, we had race riots, or what was called race riots. I did not know what was happening at the time because I was just an elementary school child. I thought there was racial tension because Martin Luther King had recently been murdered. But now that I've done some research on it, what happened back in 1970 was that a black boy, not much older than I was at the time, a black teenager, uh, was murdered while he was in jail awaiting trial. So consequently, there was some looting and burning of white and Asian businesses, and 6 black men were shot in the back. I'm not sure exactly in what order those things happened. But consequently, the legal authorities called in the National Guard to keep the peace. And there were military tanks with men in military uniforms with large military weapons on the street where I lived, where my brother and I rode our bicycles. And I thought this was terrifying. This did not make me feel safe at all. It reminds me of many years later when I was an adult and I went on a ski trip to Austria, and our flight first landed in Munich. And almost the first thing that I saw when I got off the plane, I saw military officials with machine guns patrolling the airport, which I was not used to seeing. And that did not make me feel like I was in a safe country at all. I thought to myself that we should hurry up and get out of Germany and get to the ski slopes in Austria. But back to Augusta, Georgia for a moment. James Brown was from Augusta, Georgia, and he owned a radio station named WRDW that was right by the baseball field where my brother played baseball. And as my little brother, it might have been softball. He was very young at the time. The name of the radio station was WRDW, and their slogan was WRDW going to be all right. They said that many times every day. WRDW going to be all right. So sometimes when we were at the baseball field and we were in the bleachers, uh, we would see this long stretch limo drive up, and some grown men in fur coats get out of the limo and go into the radio station, including James Brown. And to us, this was like seeing celebrities. We had never seen anything like this before. But in 1970, when these race riots were occurring, actually, it was about 1,000 Black people who gathered um, to express their frustrations, to complain, and to protest. And that is when 6 of them were shot in the back. But in 1970, when these race riots were occurring, so there were 1,000 of the Black people who were complaining and protesting. And so the legal authorities called out hundreds of National Guard people to keep the peace. So when that happened, and there was a lot of racial tension, James Brown came to town and got on the radio station and made a plea for civility and peace in our community so that things could return to normal. Now, all of this did not make me feel safe at all. I thought it was terrifying, and it made me feel like something was very wrong when adults were not willing to do the difficult work of peacemaking that was necessary in this situation and could have led to a peaceful resolution of this conflict. For most of my life, I have watched race relations improve. I have watched racial tensions decrease for most of my life until very recently. And now it seems like in the United States, the country is reversing course. And racial prejudice is not only acceptable, it's out in the open with no apologies. That is very concerning to me, and it makes me glad that I am here in Costa Rica for a while, where I see at least 4 races live in peace and harmony for the most part without racial tension. Now, Costa Rica does not have a military. It has not had a military since the 1940s, so it's able to use those funds instead for things like universal health care and education for all of its citizens. Costa Rica does have a small organization like the National Guard in case of an emergency. But right now, there is no emergency. I'm not saying there's not any crime in Costa Rica. There is some crime in congested cities like San Jose. There is some crime, although I've been to San Jose several times and was careful and was not the victim of any crime and didn't witness any crime. Now, here where I live, in the Central Valley region, at El Canal, I never see any crime. I've lived here 8 months and I have not been the victim of any crime or witnessed any crime. I don't even know anybody who's been the victim of any crime, or especially any violent crime. Costa Rica is not a gun culture. People don't wear guns on belts on their bodies or have weapons in their pockets for the most part. There are guards at the banks and at some locations around town, but it's not a gun culture where everybody has a gun. In fact, in the community where I live, guns are not allowed, and that makes me feel very safe. The security guards have guns and have weapons and have walkie-talkies and keep a close watch on things. But the citizens are not allowed to have guns. It's against the rules. And that makes me feel safe. There is no military on the streets. of San Jose, although it legitimately has some crime problems in congested cities. The safety regulations of San Jose were recently recommended by Trump as an example for Washington, D.C., where military is now patrolling the streets, even in the tourist sections, not just in the sections where crime occurs, but around the monuments where tourists are enjoying seeing some of the tourist sites. So, although San Jose has been recommended as an example for Washington, D.C., San Jose does not have a military presence in the streets. I know that D.C. and San Jose have some crime problems. I love Washington, D.C. I have been many times. I love Chicago. I love a lot of things about American cities. I've probably been to Washington, D.C. more than any other city in the world. Although I also love Florence and Venice, I'd have to say that Washington, D.C. has so many things to attract tourists, American families, where they can see monuments and museums and just so much history for everybody to learn from. So I look forward to a time when I can return to the United States without feeling terrified by U.S. military in the streets. Right now, I feel like I am living in a developing democracy rather than a declining democracy, which is a good feeling for me. Costa Rica has a fully functioning democracy with three branches of fully functioning government: an administrative branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. And those hold each other in check. And that makes me feel safe and confident. If you have additional information, please put it in the comments section so that we can all learn from one another. Pura Vida, ciao.